Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Take a moment to remember the 16 police officers and 6 firefighters that passed since our last board meeting.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, so we're going to begin with the motion to go into executive session, of which we'll hold here, and all others, I guess, can go upstairs or wherever they want to go out of this room.
You're released.
Pretty much, got to leave. So with that said, I move to go into executive session for legal matters pursuant to ARS 38431.03A3 in reference to a notice of claim and the MOU. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is there a second in there someplace?
A second.
Second. Sorry, thank you. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now in executive session.
You remind?
Okay, we are back in open session. We have 2 items from executive session. One we'll discuss now, and the second we'll discuss in just a little bit as it comes up on the agenda. First item is the matter of the claim filed against the fire district. I move that we postpone any action and until that point, in which we are then probably contacted by the attorneys from the insurance companies, and then we'll act then. Does that sound good? Okay, so the motion is actually basically for no action for now. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, the first thing up is, or not the first thing up, but the next item on the agenda is the budget workshop. And I believe we will be talking about that with Sarah.
Correct, Chairman? Okay. So we wanted to do our standard February is when we do our kickoff for our 2025 budget. I have to remember my numbers here. Feels like we just started 2024, but so this is just your first preview of what the schedule looks like, our preliminary numbers as far as revenue. We did get our assessed valuation, so we'll walk through that and give you guys a schedule of what to expect when in the coming months until we lead up to tentative adoption and then final adoption. So go to the next slide. So just the objectives of today, we're going to update on the process, significant budget numbers. As I mentioned, overview of the budget projections. We do have a couple of numbers with how the impact is for PSPRS and what the Social Security COLA looks like and the impacts to the budget. And then review the budget schedule as well as then any discussion and board direction that you may have for the team here. So real quick, on our fiscal year 2025 revenue, we have our primary sources. We have our tax levy and non-tax levy revenues. Our tax levy revenue is driven by our property tax assessment value and our tax rate. So our assessed valuation came in at 4.83% increase year over year, which equates to about $940,000 at the current tax rate. And then we have our funding limitations with our assessed valuation. As those, you guys know, the, percentage of the assessed valuation on commercial property goes down, but we also are able to increase our tax rate to offset that, so,
What is the limit on the tax rate?
3.75. And then we have our non-tax levy revenues that we're working through, which are primarily ambulance-related, telecom, wildland, and then any miscellaneous revenue, which is our prevention fees, donations, investment income, things like that. Next slide is our significant budget numbers. So still we're in the very preliminary stages. We do have our PSPRS increase. It increased about 1.4%, and ASRS decreased about 0.02%. On our current cost of payroll, that's about $141,000 impact to our current payroll numbers. Our cost of living adjustments, just kind of give you guys a ballpark of what we typically try to look at some things around Social Security, what Social Security is doing from a COLA perspective, what federal government is saying. Social Security came out with a 3.2% COLA for fiscal year 2025, which is about a $365,000 impact to our current wages. And then obviously we have our health insurance increase, which is TBD. We're working through that. And then workers' comp is also to be determined, but it will go up typically. We've seen it go up about $80,000 year over year. So every year it's going up about $80,000 over the last 5 years. So to kind of give you an understanding of the things that we're up against, you probably should expect something similar this year of about $80,000. And then obviously walking through our financial goals for the future, which haven't changed. Really, we want to make sure that we're doing a balanced budget while meeting the operational needs of the community. We want to ensure that we're managing our expenditures, both our operational expenditures, our wages and salaries and employee benefits, and then also continue with our capital growth, our capital funds and our growth of our operating fund and reserves. Just so that you guys know, and that's really related to our end leave liability, which at the end of fiscal year 23, our end year leave liability was about $1.5 million. And then our PSPRS unfunded liability is $26.2 as of fiscal year 20. This is the budget schedule. We shared this with the budget owners and program managers here at Sedona Fire. This is more detailed than what you guys really need to look at, but just so that you guys kind of see what's leading up into the points for you guys to review. We're getting all of the budget worksheets in at the beginning of March. So the team right now is working through budget requests to figure out what the organizational needs are. We'll be able to provide a high-level understanding of that to you guys in the March 19th board meeting in that budget workshop. And then we'll have a full budget review in our April budget meeting with hopefully tentative adoption in May, and then final adoption with public hearing and final adoption in June. Any questions on that schedule or?
We scheduled the 21st of May for that our board budget
Yeah.
finance committee workshop. Okay, good. That was last year. Was that our first year doing that last year? I believe so.
Yeah.
But it brought everything together.
Yes. And that was the one that will go in detail of the budget.
Okay, any questions? No? Good. That complete our budget workshop? Okay. Well, looks we're on schedule. Okay, budget workshop is complete. Okay, we get back to our, well, let me say this, and as far as direction for staff, let's continue working forward on our budget process and till we come to that final day, we get it approved or back to the drawing board.
We met with one of two healthcare providers today to get some prelim numbers. And then tomorrow I have a board meeting with Securus. Hopefully we'll have a better idea. that. And so it's progressing well. Some stuff's coming a lot sooner than I remember in the past.
Sarah, you mentioned the unfunded liability for the pensions was 26 point something?
Yeah, 26 point, hold on, let me get it. I think it was 26.2.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is regular business portion of our meeting. Do we have any speakers from the public?
Nobody has requested to speak.
Okay. All right. Our consent agenda consists of the January 16, 2024 regular meeting minutes. I move to approve those minutes for the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on those minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Our financial report and updates from Department of Finance. Sure.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in your board packet, there are your January 2024 monthly financials. To go over where we ended January, and then I'll move into year-to-date. So in January, our tax revenue came in at $877,000, which is under budget by about $377,000. That's really just timing related. If you look at our next slide, when I show you our tax revenue, it's not specifically called out that our tax revenue is over budget year-to-date. So it really is just timing of how we're collecting that property tax revenue. Our non-tax levy revenue was slightly under budget at $244,000, which was about $24,000 under budget. And that's really related to some ambulance, lower ambulance than what we had anticipated, and then offset by higher interest earning income. And then we have, moving into our expenses, so personnel, you'll see that actually all of them for January are under budget. Personnel was under budget by $140,000. Except for building and land, which I'll get to in just a second. Vehicle and equipment was under budget by about $10,000. Communications and IT was under budget by $3,000, and managerial was under budget by about $42,000. Building and land is up over budget, but that's really related, again, timing. We did some purchase of some, or install of some heaters at Station 5. That's really what's driving that improvement cost there. Year-to-date, total revenues, as I mentioned, we ended year-to-date January at $16.2 million, which is up over budget by $284,000. Our total expenditures are under budget by about $780,000, coming in at $12.4 million. And then you can see the breakout of those expenditures in the out graph, or out bars there. Personnel made up about $10 million of that, which was under budget by $733,000. Building and land is slightly over budget at $250,000. Vehicles and equipment is under budget by about $25,000, and then we have our communications and IT that kind of offset each other. Our expenditures year-to-date as a percentage of the budget, so we have spent about 56% of our budget for the year, which is right in line with where we should be this much through the year, with about 44% to go. Our expenditures as percentage of categories, personnel makes up about 85%, with operations at 7%, communications at 5%, and managerial at 3%, which is right in line with where we should be. We typically see about 80 to 85% of our expenses related to personnel. And then finally, our cash position. So our cash ended in January at $19.2 million versus $16.2 million this time last year. So that's great growth. We've also seen an increase in our other assets as well, going from just shy of $25 million to $25.2 million year over year. And then our liabilities have also increased, though, so at $32.5 million to $33.2 million. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions for the financial report? I don't think we have any. Thank you. With that said, I move to go ahead and approve the financials for January 24 as presented in the financial report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Financial report for January 2024 is approved. Thank you. Okay, Chief, we're down to the staff items, which is the fire chief's report.
All right, we'll kick off with Heidi.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, brief again today from the administrative side, letting you know that we've been working on some website updates, so wanting to get some feedback. We started with CRR, getting some feedback from contractors, finding forms from the staff themselves. We're trying to clean up and streamline the menu options, so your drop-down menus and where they take you, and try to get it so that it makes a little bit more sense. We did a kind of a shift and a drop, and then with different priorities, didn't visit back again. So we're back in full swing with making those updates, and you'll probably see a few of them if you take a visit to our main page and the CRR site in particular. To let you know, the annual award celebration has been scheduled. Kim's been sending out reminders regularly. That's coming up on March 15th, so that's where we'll do the annual awards for employees, firefighter of the year, and so forth, and a good time to be had by all. And if you need any more information, get with Kim, please. And then I'll use this one as a segue into the assistant chief coming up. So as part of the overall job description review, hey, it's on the slide right over there for our total compensation study. We've gone through an extensive review of administrative job descriptions, giving feedback, working with the employee, their supervisor, and leadership, and that's taken up a good amount of a lot of our time, wanting to put in the right amount of effort for that, so that we get some good data for Chief Coyle, and I'm sure that he will address that in his presentation at least a little bit. And with that, if you don't have any questions, that's all I have to report.
Any questions for Heidi? No. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief?
All right, Chief Coyle is setting up a conference room for the annual Incident Management Team seasonal kickoff down in Mesa. So I am going to report. I will not cover his full packet, but it is available if needed. So Chief Coyle's reporting out on his first quarter deliverables. Heidi referenced the job descriptions. Rewrote 21 job descriptions, which ended up with 107 sets of edits that were received from peers and supervisors and the employees themselves. They've all been formatted, updated, and in multiple interviews with personnel and their supervisor to go over the job descriptions for content. And he's got a few more to do next week, and then that will be wrapped up. Total compensation study, as stated, it's on track. We reached out to comparable agencies and got a company working on that, and they are on track to have numbers for us in alignment with our budget process. And performance management system update, working through a lot, trying to paraphrase his lengthy. It's ongoing. Met with several people from different disciplines who have developed and implemented effective performance management programs. Looking at a literature review and working with that. And that relates to our right sizing and retooling how we evaluate our employees in such a way that it adds value to their environment, where they can take those bits of feedback and transition, to a better workspace. From the operations standpoint and significant calls, I think the one that hits hardest is we had 2 fatalities on the trails last month, and both of them were related to cliff edge, slip, trip, fall type of things. And with those, had to do some education with local media. BC Lewis did an interview with 3 TV, but ultimately, we do a lot of backcountry rescue work, as you know. In this environment, when we get out there and it's been determined that the person is deceased, then it becomes a county sheriff matter. And so navigating with local media was a bit tricky because they wanted to know all the details, and once it becomes a recovery, as we call it, then it's our hands are off. We may assist the local law enforcement agencies, but it is now potentially a criminal matter, but at the very least, it's an investigation. So, and our PSA we posted on social media generated a lot of conversation. So it was good. Hopefully people recognize that, you know, while beautiful, it can be dangerous in the backcountry. Other items, Bob's still working through a multitude of communications opportunities, getting Justin Bruce trained up. The second radio tech that we hired, we pulled our offer of employment. Really poor follow-up for 6 weeks, and that's the front end of what you're going to experience. I don't want to experience that one. You know, it just didn't seem like it was going to work out. So we're refloating that position to see what we can get. And then Bob, another thing we're working through with IT is previous chiefs entered into agreements with City of Sedona and Copper Canyon Fire primarily for Bob to provide their IT services. And it's become more difficult being a one-person shop, but he's getting some help. And a couple of the time sucks for him this past few weeks is the Sedona PD's upgrading their system, and there were some hiccups there, and he's working through it with them. And then Copper Canyon, they had a radio channel registered, and I'm going to pretend to try to explain this because it's Bobby's, but bottom line is the Camp Verde Clinic Association, which was like a 1970s association to provide ambulance service to Camp Verde, held the licensing for one of the radio channels that Copper Canyon uses, and as they changed from Camp Verde Clinical Association to Camp Verde Fire to Camp Fire Department to Camp Verde Fire District to Camp Verde Fire and Medical to Copper Canyon, the licensing didn't flow appropriately, and so Bob's delicately navigating relicensing to ensure that they don't lose frequency modulation, and basically, if done improperly, it'll reduce the effectiveness of that channel. And Bob's, again, killing it. And with that, that is the bulk of Chief Coyle's report. So we will move on to Kirk, who is here for Dory tonight.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm not prepared.
Wait, hold. No slide. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
Okay, let's go, because I don't have a slide anyway, so that's fine. So, good evening, everybody. Not prepared. Just asked to be here tonight, so I'm going to wing this.
Never wings it.
I'm winging it, big time winging it. So, Chief Booth's been off for a couple weeks, vacationing, and she had PT tonight, so I'm going to sit in her seat. Just off the top of my head, we sent 2 people to car seat technician course. So we have 2 more certified car seat technicians, myself and firefighter Gaylord went. It's 3.5 days. It snowed all 3.5 days, and it was outside event. It was very, but yeah, it was good though. It was really good. I learned a ton. I had no idea it would take 3.5 days to get through what we went through, and it did. But so we now have 5 qualified technicians. We need to have more, just for the liability purpose, that they're going to drive down the road with seat. And our job is, this class was more geared to us educating the caregiver, parent, caregiver, whoever, how to put their seat in properly and use it properly with their child. So our job is to teach them, then they put it in, and then they drive away and sign liability off. So that's something we have to be diligent with. Other than that, we did a fire extinguisher training with the new fire extinguisher props we have for the clubhouse at the village that had the kitchen fire and all their staff. That went really well. They learned a lot, and it was a good experience. We're going to use that a lot more often. Blasting, I think this morning was the last blast for Forest Road on the highway to actually open the roadway up. All the rest of the blasting is going to be utilities. They got to blast sewer and water and APS all the way up the road still. So that'll be coming soon. They're moving along fast. The tank site on 179 for Arizona Water, that blasting is complete. If you haven't seen it yet, it's quite a sight, the crater they have created out there. And, they're getting it bedded and start working on that, so that's a big project. Other than that, we had a marathon here 2 weekends ago. Went well. Everybody made it back, except for one person that was straggling, but Pink Jeeps followed them all the way back, because she was in no hurry. She was gonna enjoy her half marathon at her pace. That her words were, "I have till 3 o'clock." So, it was good. Other than that, that's all I got. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Thank you.
All right.
All right, Buzz.
Got to attend one of the blasts. They didn't let me pull the thing, though. It's 33 feet deep, that well site. See, I'll show you just a couple things on the pictures. If you haven't been to our dispatch center, that's one of the consoles to the right. That's one of their newest dispatchers in training. Went over there, try to go pretty often. One thing that I want to point out is this area has text to 911 now. There's been a thing in the east for a long time. So our part of the woods is catching up. You can discreetly text if you're in distress. So tell your family and your friends. You can also, you know, when you can receive or send a text and it works but you can't make a call, that capability is in our area too, which is helpful for us. It'll send an automatic message back to the person. It's an AI thing a little bit, but then a person is there and they can ask pointed questions and go through the algorithms on how to dispatch, get the appropriate agency or the appropriate care that you need. So that's a really big deal for our area. And that's part of the whole enhanced 911 piece that the federal government's pushing. We talked about text to 911 like 22 years ago. We attended meetings for it because I was there, and it was like, now it's a thing. So very cool. Spread the word on that. It really enhances our ability to find hikers, save them, save battery while making contact. It's a big deal. Probably a big deal for assailant situations too. But yeah, that's the dispatch center. They had a server upgrade, which caused an outage on for everyone for a little while. I think we're almost back caught up on reports. That's why Pulse Point was down for a while, for those of you who use the app Pulse Point. Those are back up. So if it's not back up on your phone, it should be, and we can fix that for you. But what that will allow us to do is add some of the applications and upgrade different things on our end that we've been waiting for the server upgrade to happen. Like, it just slipped my mind. It'll make it better for our response. Just forgot the name of the program. It's embarrassing.
Not active, it's a mapping product.
Yeah, so we can talk about that later. So we've worked a long time on that. That was a huge endeavor, knocking out a 911 call center for hours and hours on 2 different days is a very big deal. So they are now done, and Cottonwood is, we're trying to align our Verde Valley missions with the same programs and the same products so that dispatch, just one more way for all of us to be connected on the same page regionally. That's dispatch. EMS, personally, the 3 of us went to paramedic refresher this month, which was a week long. It was a joy. And a lot of our folks this is refresher season for our organization. A lot of people expire in March, so we have dozens and dozens of people going through their recertification process. We go through their training thing and approve it. Fleet, we have our 2 Pierce engines are almost finalized to actually start cutting metal. I actually had an email while we were waiting from our rep, but if you look at those red squares, that's 1 wall of 2 walls of red paint options at the factory. And if you look close, ours is red number 90. You can't see it, that's a joke. But it's on my desk upstairs if you wanna see what color it is. Pretty much the one that's out here is red number 90. I just think stuff like that is really amazing to me. It just shows what all the details involved there. We also have a Type 3 engine, in process, Type 6 in Boise. And then, we're meeting we've been meeting with the Braun ambulance folks. The supply chain things, trying to figure out as we take a new look at the capital plan, because all the prices we put on things, they don't count anymore. Go figure, like, fire trucks are $1 million now. If we would have waited, our truck would be $1 million. Ambulances are the same, ambulance chassis, the boxes, the components, the electronics, everything is difficult to get. So we're looking at remounting one of our ambulances. So they'll take, the box off, refurb, look at it, we go through a punch list, which is what we're doing next week, and then they'll put it on a new chassis and it extends the life of the ambulances at a better value, really. And it's a program that Chief Missoula started, and this will be our third and fourth, I think.
I also want to mention, you know, Buzz touched on the capital costs going up exponentially, touched on the remount, but then we had, an unfunded new mandate from the state that all ambulances required to have shoulder harnesses in the back of the ambulance. We have a couple that don't. And so while they weren't scheduled for remount, it messed up the remount process too, because, we should get that one in. And average cost of adding seat belts to the back is $15,000?
Yeah, 15 to 25, depends on how many. And we have a handful that need it. They don't need all of them, but yeah, we'll be talking. I discovered that last week, so.
Yeah, it's awesome. You have a plan and then somebody else comes up with a new one.
Yeah, I took a class today just about keeping up with regulations in EMS. The whole thing was on today. And you can't, they're making these, like Ed said, Chief said, unfunded things, and many times those people write those as lawmakers, then the code or the rule set comes out, and they've never really been in emergency response before, and they're defining how you will respond in an emergency. Our ambulances are compliant, and they were compliant. They're only a few years old, yet there's a new compliance that they added to existing equipment, to the tune. You can't just slap a seatbelt on it. You have to send it to the factory and they tear it down and put it to the structure. And, I think we might have 4 that need that to the tune of $25,000. So hopefully we can remount 2 of them within the next 2 years and, not have to do that cost. Have to pretty much negate by remounting in a couple years, whatever. So, let's see. We did the job description stuff with Chief Missoula and Chief Coyle. That's been ongoing for all of us. As you talked about the Zoll thing.
Yeah, that's on the agenda, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Not talk about that. I think that's it. I'm sure there's a million other things, but a lot going on as usual. So,
Thank you. Any questions for the chief? No? Okay. Chief?
Gordon?
All right. Chairman, members of the board, so again, another busy month. We just completed captain position task book evaluations. So we asked that candidates submit a letter of interest with all the requirements for the position of captain to take part in an evaluation. It's nothing new here, but working with Chief Lakowski and Captain David Rodriguez, who was representing Local 3690 during the process, we ran candidates through a little more extensive process than we've had in the past, but trying to better prepare them for the position when they actually get into the position. Utilize this opportunity for some identification of training needs we have as an agency, where some of the candidates maybe weren't as prepared as possible, and that's on us in the training division. So we met with all 3 candidates that went through, provided training recommendations and a plan of action with that candidate, their company officer, and their BC. to make sure everybody is in the loop and accountable for improvement. Out of that process, happy to announce we do have one new billeted company officer that is currently moving up as we speak, within the last week into the role of company officer. So after meeting with all three candidates, got some great feedback from them, some learning experiences, some recommendations for us, and we're just gonna keep building that process moving forward, with anticipation of doing another company officer captain position task book evaluation this summer. And so hopefully we'll have a few more candidates in there as well, and then move into next spring where we'll be holding a captain's assessment center. And that is a requirement to have that task book evaluation done prior to the assessment center to take part in that. Completed a 6-month probationary firefighter evaluation. So we got that knocked out. Individual passed with flying colors and is moving towards their second 6 months and then eventually a 1-year evaluation, which we're gonna have a slew of here pretty soon, with the 9 new hires hitting their 6 months, I believe, in April. So all 9 of them will go through a 6-month evaluation, and about that same time, we'll have 2 individuals with a 1-year evaluation. So we'll be evaluating 11 individuals within a 2 to 3 week time frame. So it'll be pretty busy. Scheduled the MCS evaluations. So as we did in November, training division will be working with the BCs and going around to all 15 companies in the district, working with them on proficiency standards for minimum company standards and evaluations. And all the crews were notified last month what the evaluation would be. And from what I've seen and heard, all of them are out practicing and doing a lot of training, which is a byproduct of these evaluations, just making everybody better and giving us opportunity to kind of standardize procedures moving forward. So we'll be starting that next Monday, and finishing up on March 7th will be our last battalion. We're looking at sending 1 to 2 individuals to the NFPA 1403 class, which is the live fire for fixed facility instructor course. Unfortunately, the class filled up before we could get them registered, fills up rather quickly. I talked to the agency and they're gonna let us know they've got another one planned at the end of May. I believe it's in Taylor, Arizona. So she was gonna let me know as soon as that gets announced so we can get those 2 individuals in, and that'll get us up to 5 NFPA 1403 certified live fire instructors for our new hire orientations and the end of the year battalion level live fire training. So training division's plan is to run all 3 battalions through live fire training once a year, which is an ISO mandate, and make that a standardized training annually for all 3 battalions. So as you can imagine, getting 27 individuals through, each battalion's 27 individuals, all 3 battalions in 1 week is gonna be a heavy lift. We're looking at scheduling that in December, but having 5 1403 certified instructors there will meet all the requirements that we have to meet for that training. So we'll get those 2 pushed through that training, hopefully the end of May, beginning of June. March 1st, we've got a career fair at the Sedona Red Rock High School. If you remember, I believe it was October, November of last year, we did one at Cottonwood Fairgrounds. Had actually 2 people follow up after that and request ride-alongs, so interested in testing with us. This one's targeting junior high and high school students that are looking kind of where they want to go with a career path. And from all the studies I've done, that's the time to capture them, is junior high and their first 2 years of high school before they start deciding what they want to do as a career. So it's anticipated we'll have 450 students run through on that day. So we've got members of GIS, CRR, operations that'll all be there. GIS is taking our drone up there. We've got a recruit video. CRR will have some supplies up there, and then obviously operations will have some turnout gear and SCBAs and be able to interface with some of our youth and hopefully attract some attention for future recruits and individuals applying at Sedona Fire. We completed the mandatory administrative driver's training course last week. It was a great class, I thought. I sat in on one of them. We did 2 separate classes on the same day so we could ensure that operations next door weren't interrupted, and they were able to fill roles while some were taking the class and then change over and continue to be at the front desk and available to answer questions from the public as they came in. To my knowledge, that's the first time we've done that at Sedona Fire, so that targeted administrative staff that's not operational and driving code 3, but still occasionally or every day drives Sedona Fire vehicles, including radio techs, IT techs, everybody in administration. So we did a defensive driver course. It was approximately 2 hours. Captain Ralph Kurtz taught the course, and, thought did a good job. Interacted with the class, and all the feedback I got was great, so we're gonna standardize that now, and that's gonna be a mandated training annually, along with our November, December operations mandated, operational level driver's training. And then just working on a comprehensive budget to ensure all training mandates and district requirements are met for fiscal year 25. So, as was mentioned earlier, that March 1st deadline, anticipate having all that information to Chief Mazulis to take a first glance at it, trying to make sure we're meeting all the ISO, OSHA requirements, NFPA recommendations, and then internal expectations for Sedona Fire. That's all I've got, unless you have any questions.
Been busy. You've been
Yeah.
busy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken?
Okay, I think next up is, Keith. Yours.
Yes, so we, standard month, we're as busy as we normally are, and, excuse me, our, Station 1 and Station 3 continue to win the race on calls. Our median turnout time has gone down a bit, about 6 seconds, so that's good. It's and that's time of alarm till truck leaving to the call, so that time going down is a good thing. And, excuse me, again, total ambulance time is 1 hour and 31 minutes committed to these transport times, and we've been evaluating and we'll continue to evaluate. We're meeting with labor reps and some folks who did some research. We're looking at our Phoenix transports. It's a weird sawtooth if you look at the data. We'll have 4, 6, and then it'll jump to 14, and then it goes back down. So we're really looking at kind of dissecting the what. Most of these are in the late night or early morning hours. So just trying to figure out, are we seeing an increase, or is it seasonally based, or is, there's a lot of variables. Is there something we can do with NAH to assist with those times? And it's not that we, it's part of the job to get people to an appropriate hospital, but if Phoenix transports continue to increase and we continue to have times where there's fewer ambulances in district, it's something to evaluate. But we're not at that point right now, in my opinion, but we're evaluating all the data. So, and then purchase orders over 10,000. The heater was mentioned by Sarah for Station 5, and then some HVAC repairs, and then ESRI is the GIS software that we utilize, and that was just a contract renewal. That was a budgeted item. And you can see quite a few thank you letters. The one that's difficult to read, pretty neat. Lady ran out of gas, and our crews jumped in and grabbed a can from the station and helped her get her to a gas station. And she sounds like in the letter she recognizes that it wasn't an emergency, but it was her worst day, and our crews made it go away. And so it was pretty cool.
Good.
Chief, I have a question for him. I'm going to ask you to go back to the monthly incident summary page. I'm wondering, is it possible when your year-to-date totals to show year-to-date last year this month as opposed to the whole year?
Comparables?
Yeah,
Month-over-month comparables?
Yeah, because this is like,
Neat. Okay. What does that mean compared to last year?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm tracking, because I was thinking about that.
okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, if I tell you a Big Mac costs $14 and you never had a Big Mac, you think that's normal. But if I show you that year over year, we're averaging 50 more calls a month, that's something worth knowing.
Thank you.
That's what I got.
Okay, thank you. Seems like the staff was pretty busy this whole month.
It is the season. January through December is our busy month.
There's a season?
Budget time. Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion possible action to enter into an MOU with Verde Valley Fire District and partnering agencies to submit for an AFG grant.
Correct. So the local chiefs and I were we're throwing around some ideas for AFG grant to submit, and, there's a slew of stuff. We've done attempted air packs and radios and things like that in the past, been successful, haven't been successful, but it seems the trend is, regionalization is really getting the attention of the grant reviewers. And so Chief Johnson came up with the idea of cardiac monitors. And, right now, all the agencies in the Verde Valley aren't on the same monitor. And to Buzz's point earlier, just the collective is really looking at everything we do being like-sized. And, when reviewing our current cardiac monitor stockpile, I realized they're 8 years old now. And, it took me a minute because I remember presenting them to the board like it was yesterday. And cardiac monitors, wait for it, have gone up in price. And, they're now fully packaged, they're $53,000. So, we have programmed in the budget $60,000 a year, starting last year and going forward to have a replacement program. But with this grant opportunity, our intention would be to get the latest and greatest for our ambulance fleet, which would be 7 monitors. And the grant speaks to, or the MOU speaks to the fact that it's a 10% match. And so that the 10% match, if approved, is well under what we budgeted. So it's a win all the way around. And it allows us, the monitor's got a few bells and whistles that our current ones don't have that'll make patient care more efficient. And getting 7 at once and putting them on the ambulances, it's just that right sizing it so when our crews are working on different ambulances, they're same. So with that, if approved, the cost to the district is under what we budgeted for our current replacement program. It's in capital. And the other benefits is that it'll like size all of our agencies around the Verde Valley with the same cardiac monitor. And where that matters is more frequently than in the past, and with some of the run card changes, what our crews will end up in Camp Verde or Rimrock or the Verde Valley to help out, and vice versa. And if we do have an event where, you know, we're using a cardiac monitor, have the pads on everything, it's just, you just change them out. And it's, the situation right now is if we're helping one of those other agencies, you have to peel those pads off and put ours on. So there's a multiple other benefits. Some of the newer technologies and some of the stuff that these monitors have would be beneficial for our community. And as stated, there's no budget impact other than what was budgeted. Actually, is the cost savings of almost $20,000.
Questions?
That sounds good.
You know, it seems a little bit unusual to try to ascertain or try to gain this grant with an MOU versus a agreement or something, but we're not purchasing it, we're requesting funds in order to purchase things. So the MOU seems a little bit, I don't think we've ever used that before.
The MOU allows for Verde Valley Fire to be the administrating agent for the grant, and then the MOU just states we're not going to help them get it, and then they said, oh no, we're going to keep those. I mean, to oversimplify it, it's just that they will administer the grant because you have to have somebody do it, and then these different agencies will get their requested amount of cardiac monitors. It's not unlike the grant that was just done with Securus, where they got funding for cancer testing. My gosh, I'm talking too much today. Cancer testing. So the MOU it's just clarifying language to state that they'll administer the grant, but we get what we asked for.
I think it's a testament to the fact that all 3 agencies are working together to a common goal to get that, which is a good deal. Okay. Is this calling for a motion to approve this thing or just information?
Oh, no, approve. You need to sign the MOU.
Okay, so I'll go ahead, make a motion to approve this MOU as written and presented by Chief Mazulis. MOU between Verde Valley Fire District and partnering agencies to submit for an AFG grant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, do you have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, we
Mr.
approve the MOU.
If I might, perhaps the board could entertain an additional motion in this regard. I see that set up for approval as to form. We represent all three districts, so I need a consent from you to authorize us to execute the approval as to form and to waive any potential conflict of interest arise thereof.
Okay, then, as stated, we'll utilize that language for the motion. Again, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Bill, thank you for the language on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I will confirm, it was my understanding they're gonna do some sort of electronic signature to capture everybody, all the boards on this, but I will confirm, you know, everybody's taken it to their boards this month. I'll confirm how they want it.
DocuSign type of thing?
I believe so. I'll confirm that and I'll communicate that with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. The next item on the agenda is discussion possible action to review and sign the IAFF Local 3690 and the ASEA Labor MOUs. As a result of discussion in executive session, we've agreed to table this to next month, given the Labor and Administration an opportunity to address language changes.
You actually haven't agreed to anything yet, so it seems to me a motion would be appropriate.
So then,
Motion to table, I mean,
motion to table
this particular item.
this particular item until next month. Okay. All right, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion, possible action, discussion and verbal approval of the fire chief to represent Sedona Fire District in conversations with City of Sedona regarding fire station or Station 4 property use proposals. Chief?
Yes, so I've had a series of meetings with the current city manager and assistant city manager, and thanks to Matt Spinelli, did some kind of conceptual drawings of what a station would look like at a city-owned property in Uptown. It would afford us a better building envelope to replace Station 4. And tentatively, they are in agreement that there is an opportunity potentially. So that's us having a conversation. We're at the point now where need to further discussions with the city, and prior to engaging in conversations with the city council and other elected governing body, I wanted to request permission from the board to have those conversations and represent the district and look at our options, and potentially if the flow path continues and we got to a point where there was, I don't know, a land swap or some sort of monetary exchange, I don't know what it would look like, but I have to have those conversations to get to the point where I can deliver that to the board. So, and I just wanted to advise that we're at the point now where I can take information to the city council for conversation.
That could be done with a motion or a consensus of the board, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, so if we have a consensus of the board to allow the chief to continue with discussions with the city in the discussions with Fire Station 4, is there some agreement on that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, then through consensus, continue with your discussions with the city on Fire Station 4 matters, towards the point of doing your land acquisitions that you're talking about.
And to be crystal clear, this would be exploratory and then get to the point of negotiation and then obviously brought to the board for approval or denial. There's be no decisions made. It's just to have the opportunity to have those conversations.
Thank you. Last item on the agenda is board member items. This is where we have an opportunity to discuss here in our meeting those items that we've done on our own throughout the month as it related to business towards the fire district. And start off with Janet.
I'm just up to my usual stuff, bill pay and occasionally signing some checks and money.
Okay. Ellen?
Well, the policies have occupied a whole bunch of my time, and that's good. And as Janet mentioned, bill paying. I had the opportunity to join the chief, and time passes, so I'm not sure if it was this month or last month, at a meeting with, our district supervisor and folks from Yavapai County about the parking along Chavez Ranch Road. And I'm pleased to report to everyone that the poles are in, the foundations are in. There are no signs, but there's lots of progress. Other than that, signing checks and the usual, I'm looking forward to the next one-on-one and seeing what adventures lie with that.
Okay. All right. Scott, welcome back.
Thank
What do
you.
you got for us? Anything?
I'm still working with Janet to get those bills paid. And then what I was gonna say, I don't even know because I was so out of it after this surgery. And, the only place to go was home. But then when you have to go to a hospital, you get the best people here. I don't remember any names. The problem was, you know, I had the surgery on January 29th, came home, didn't even realize that I was loopy. My wife said, yes, I'm calling 911.
Oh, boy.
And I said, you don't have to do that. Well, it was a good thing she did. I guess I was all colors of, you know, green, gray, and saying crazy things. So, you know, when you want to think opiate, don't do it. I don't know what they were giving me, but, you know, things happen. And I was glad to see guys from here coming in the rain at, I think at that time it was probably 11 in the evening. And it was a place that I'd never been before, but they took me all the way down to Sun City. I had a nice little ride in the back of the ambulance.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Yeah. Thank you.
And as for me, I think the highlight of my month was the ability to have our workshop for our policies manual. We had 4 of us there?
Yeah.
3 or 4 of us there, and made a ton of progress in why we have the book, what the book should look like, what policies are actually board policies versus operational or admin policies for the fire chief or below. So through that all, we were able to make a lot of headway and kind of whittle down those policies that are within the scope or the purview of the fire board. And so that'll take us for a long ways down the road. A little bit better understanding of Lexipol also. So with that said, that was my involvement for the month. And unless there is anything else from anyone else.
I would just like to ask in the future, if board members would like to do a ride-along with us, that you schedule it during the day so we can do lunch or something.
Okay. Got it, thank you.
Those
are nice. All righty. With that said, this meeting is adjourned.
Nice time right along.
Especially you.
Yeah.
Join us for lunch next time.
Yeah,
It's the
I'll
last-
buy.
Last thing that paramedic, firefighter, EMT wants to do is call 911.
Exactly.